Hello, I'm here to talk about life beyond life. What is beyond this existence? As I touched upon in my last video, I had a near-death experience, and pretty much see a lot of things quite differently now, including what goes on beyond this life, because I believe I touched upon that when I was next to death. But anyways, getting into what it means to die and what it is. I mean, making that transformation from this life to the next life, to the next existence. But we'll start with imagining what it would be to die. I mean, one of the things that I've had to contemplate with my own near-death experience is what would it have been like had I been in that space, but knew I wasn't coming back. Of course, while I was there, I wasn't somebody that I wasn't given a choice. I wasn't did not have the option of going beyond or coming back. I knew that I was coming back. I knew that I had more life to live, and I knew I still had things to do. But the question, of course, has come up. You know, what would it have been like to have that moment of being in that space, being there, and knowing that it was it? Where I left off in life was it. There was no more. I was going away. Everything I knew, everyone I loved, all the things I was looking forward to, it was over, it was done. How might my soul have reacted to that? Would I have been ready? Would I have been able to pass over peacefully? Would I have been reluctant? I think those are all questions that are fair to ask ourselves, and really puts a lot of perspective into living this life. I mean, what if you were in a car accident? What if you had a heart attack or a brain aneurysm? Or something, even cancer, of course, you know, anything that, you know, that becomes fatal. I mean, what if you crossed over that space and at that point you knew that was it? You know, maybe you're a young person who's about to get married, you know, later in the year, or who's, you know, getting ready for a great career, or maybe wants to travel or has plans, has things to look forward to, and a person like that may not be ready to die. Especially if it happens very quickly. How might such a soul react to that? Obviously, the people left behind, you know, they grieve that loss. But the soul, too, could also grieve the loss of life. It could be very difficult, I can imagine. I think even to the point of feeling like being in hell. Especially if one's crossed over with angry or disparaging kind of feelings, you know, anything that's negative upon crossing over. Whereas conversely, take somebody who's lived a full life. Maybe they're elderly, maybe they've got children, grandchildren, maybe great-grandchildren. They've done everything they've wanted to do. Maybe they've traveled, they've seen the world. And maybe they know they're ready. It's time for them. So that's a soul that's ready to pass over, and will do so peacefully. Or maybe perhaps even if it isn't somebody who's elderly, maybe somebody who's peaceful, living a loving existence, and very open and accepting to whatever life or death brings them. So knowing that if that time comes, it'll be all right. And in that particular case, I can see where such a crossing over is going to feel just like heaven. You know, if you want to use those terms. It's going to be peaceful, going to be blissful, beautiful. Because I will say, and I think I mentioned this in the last video, that some of the things that were very powerful for me while I was next to death wasn't just my experience of being in dark and light at once, you know, the whole experience of being, feeling like I was experiencing my own pure being, or pure being in and unto itself, but it was also the tremendous, tremendous feeling of love. Just such a deep, deep, incredible, pure love, but also such an incredible sense of life, mind, intelligence, at its purest source. So I can understand where, if a soul's not ready to go, whatever the reason may be, whether, again, maybe it's a young person with lots to look forward to, or maybe somebody who's got a lot of darkness in their heart, where I can understand where that experience could seem very, very frightening, especially if they don't understand. For somebody that maybe doesn't really have beliefs or ideas about what that's going to be like, maybe they believe that, you know, this is it. When you die, and it's all over with after that. Which I think, you know, I understand that scientifically it's, you know, it's hard to prove what is beyond this life, but I will say this much. One of my favorite documentaries is called The Universe. I can't think of the name of the scientist that said this. But regarding the electromagnetic spectrum, the light spectrum, the analogy is this: if you could take a film reel with frames on it, as a film reel has, and roll it out for 2,500 miles, 2,500 miles, what we perceive as our normal light spectrum will be about the equivalent of one frame. That's all we perceive in the entire electromagnetic spectrum. Even with all of our instruments and all of our devices, there's only so much of that we really can perceive and measure and understand and comprehend. But it just lets you know, it's just one example of how much more there really is to existence, how much more there really is to experience. And with respect to what's really beyond this life, and the sense of crossing over, I'm also going to use a quote from one of my all-time favorite movies called Jacob's Ladder. There's a lot of great quotes in that movie. It's a brilliant movie, and I think it does a great job of one person's experience of crossing over. And the line comes from the character played by Danny Aiello, talking with Jacob, played by Timothy Robbins. He was his chiropractor in the movie. And the line is simply this: if you're frightened of dying and you're holding on, you see devils tearing your life away. But if you've made your peace, then the devils are really angels freeing you from the earth. And that makes a lot of sense to me. It really is that perception of that death. It is really all of those things that I've mentioned already in terms of where you're at when you die. I mean, I can see where, like I said, you're going to miss your life. You're going to miss the things that you left behind. You're going to yearn to come back. And if you're angry and you're in a negative, foul place, I can see where the experience could be absolutely frightening, because you are exposed to your own pure being and everything that's within you. I mean, all the things that we have in this world, the money and cars and things like that, which, hey, I mean, I enjoy really nice cars. I enjoy things like that. But you can't take any of those with you. It's what's inside of you that's going to go when you pass. And if you're peaceful inside, then the experience is going to be peaceful. But if you're not ready, for whatever the reason may be, it can be a very difficult and frightening experience. But do understand something. I believe that for the soul that's ready to go home, go to heaven, or whatever term you want to use for this, it is going to be peaceful, and it's going to be that point with which the experience can become endearing and even forever. If you find, or what the Tibetan Book of the Dead refers to as the Great Liberation. But on the other hand, this concept of going to hell, it's a temporary state. A soul is not going to be cast to hell forever. Vibrations can change. That's what we're talking about, is, vibration of even of our corporeal reality to the vibration of any forms of what we might term as afterlife. And the vibrations can change. Soul can be raised up out of darkness, or out of hell, if you want to call it that. At the same time, ultimately, we are all from the same source. I talked about that in the last video. We all come from the very same source. We all come from God. We're all connected to God by the nature of our very existence. And ultimately, in the end, I believe none shall be forsaken. We will all find our way home. Every soul, every little bit and piece of divinity will find its way home. But in the meantime, there's so many different experiences that can be had. I do believe that a soul can live multiple lives here on Earth. Now, the thing about the soul, it's not relegated to space-time the same way we are here. It's not going through this moment-by-moment existence, going through the arrow of time. In other words, whatever convection of energies that is making up the person that you are right now can come from any number of different points in both space and time. You may have influences that may not even be of this earth. Maybe alien, if you will. And I do believe in alien life. Then I'll save that for another video, get into that in more detail. But it certainly is possible to live lives in other worlds, and have a soul that may be experienced in other worlds. Same with time. We talk about past lives. But at the same time, soul is not relegated to that same arrow of time that we are. Therefore, stands to reason you may have soul influence from even future lives. It's also very possible that a single soul can be experiencing life even here on Earth in more than one life at once at the same time. I know it seems very abstract, but that's getting into this level of reality. It is very abstract compared to what we're used to here, in this past, present, future, moment by moment, space-time adventure that we're on. And through these experiences, not only do we have lives here on Earth, potentially alien lives, but we have many different lives that can be experienced on lots of different frequencies, on lots of different planes of existence, if you will. Going from, you know, the most corporeal to the most esoteric and spiritual, lives that can be even almost perceived as, you know, what even the Tibetan Book of the Dead talks about, you know, the feeling of almost being kind of a godlike existence, where you have an existence where you can almost like be the universe. You can be anywhere in the universe, experience anything. You have knowledge of virtually everything in the universe. It's almost veritably a godlike existence. But at the same time, even that experience is temporary. You're born into it, have the experience, and eventually you die. But it's all part of the soul's experience as we move through these different lives. And I mentioned in the previous video, this is all the experience of God. God is everything. God is the all. God is the experience of all. And therefore, you know, God is experiencing through all of our little bits and pieces of divinity, that which is our souls, as we experience God on all of these amazing different levels. But ultimately, as I'm learning and have learned, especially through my near-death experience, going through life with love, going through all of these different lives with love, to have the ability, the experience and the ability to ultimately return home. Like I said, if you want to call it going to heaven, returning to the source, whatever expression you prefer to use it, I mean, the meaning is basically the same. In order to do that, though, we have to have that love in our heart. They have to have that highest resonance, that light frequency, to be able to return. Otherwise, we will go through many, many different lives and have many different experiences. And I'm not suggesting that is a bad thing by any means. But ultimately, there's a point with which you let go of the experience, and I guess, in a manner of speaking, you become the experience. Become one with the source, one with the all, one with pure being, because at that point and level, you are pure being. So, okay, for right now, I think we'll call that one good. And I'm going to be making, of course, more videos, and I'll get into this in more depth in the future. So, as always, I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much for giving me some time, and I hope you are having a great one. Peace.